How do you feel about all your artwork being like censored on all these platforms, man? It like really irritates me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's interesting how it works, because I put it up on the platforms the way it is, and nobody said anything.
really?
We started getting taken off things.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review podcast, man. Special guest today. We got BLAG from the Dwarves, dude. This is crazy, bro. Like, my life is so interesting as of the last 12 to 18 months. I'm getting to talk to a lot of people that I don't know if I grew up or like, my formative years, like 17, 18, 19, 25 years old. These are all musicians that I've listened to for a long time. So it's really a pleasure to speak with you, man. How you doing today?
Well, thanks for talking to me. I feel good. My voice
Let's
is
go.
both fried, but I'll do the best I can.
Let's go. You've been playing some shows lately?
Yeah, we played this weekend with Leftover Crack in LA and San Diego. That was a lot of fun. Always hilarious seeing those guys.
Yeah, man.
How'd that? Samoans were in there too, so it was fun. It was a bunch of cool punk.
That's that lineup right there, man. Angry Samoans, Leftover Crack, and the Dwarves. Wow, that's a mega lineup as far as I'm concerned. Dude, that's awesome. I'm so glad that y'all are still touring and still putting out records. The new record, I had listened to it before we had even spoke. So I didn't know it was coming out. Somebody on a live stream was like, "Hey, have you heard the new Dwarves?" And I was like, "What? No." And they sent me a thing. I was like, "Oh shit!" And then the whole record, the song that I heard, I can't remember which song it was, but the song that I'd heard first, it had like a mid-tempo like feel to it, and I was just a little bit I was excited to hear it. And then when I heard the whole record, it was like, oh, there's a lot of different samples you get on this album, which is kind of typical.
Yeah, and it kind of depends which new one you're talking about, because the really new one is Keep It Real, but that's like a 10-song mini LP. It's got a lot of variety on it, but the record before that from November is called the Dwarves Concept Album, and that's got 20 songs on it, and it's really sprawling and crazy. It's like our White Album, it sort of gets everywhere.
Oh no, I'm talking about the Concept Album.
Yeah,
I didn't realize Keep It Real even came. Holy shit, dude!
Yeah,
y'all are out there working, bro.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, we recorded so much stuff for the concept sessions.
Okay.
And we had a couple kind of remixes and different ideas for things. And so it was like, well, let's make 2 releases, but the Keep It Real is, it's a little bit cheaper at retail.
Sure.
It's a few bucks off. So, because it's more of a mini thing, but it's still, it's a Dwarves record. So it gets all over the place.
Right.
And stuff.
Well, I mean, that gives me something to do today. I can do a little live stream later and do a little listening party with some homies, man. I didn't, man, it's hard to keep up with everything going on in music these days. Even in a genre is like, I guess I don't know if the right word is small, but like a thing is closed up and personal as punk rock. There's still a lot going on, man. The more people you got on this planet, the more punk rockers you're going to have on this planet. So there's a lot of stuff coming out right now. So if I was going to describe your band and I was going to give a younger listener some advice on where to start with the Dwarves, do you have a particular album that you would recommend with them? And if so, why? Where would you start with your discography?
Our most popular record is The Dwarves Are Young and Good Looking, which has some of our kind of standard pop punk songs on it, like Everybody's Girl and One Time Only and Demonica and that kind of stuff. And then it still does some genre hopping in there, but that's a popular one to start with if your tastes are kind of that Epitaph Fat Records kind of straightforward thing. If you're more hardcore and more based in kind of 80s, 90s, real hardcore, I think Blood, Guts, and Pussy is just a classic, especially with the cover and the kind of vibe of that. But, the modern Dwarves kind of starts with The Dwarves Must Die, which was a record that a lot of people slept on, but it actually got very popular in Japan, of all places.
Really?
I think it's because that's when the crazy genre hopping really started. And it was like, here's a minute of hardcore, here's a minute of pop, here's a minute of hip hop, here's a minute of noise, here's a minute of you know, everything was just like going on that record. And to me, that's a really interesting record. And that was sort of the last one that I did start to finish with Eric Valentine.
Okay.
Great, you know, producer who's done all kinds of different pop groups and rock groups. And so, you know, that one was really sonically pleasing to me and had a lot of interesting songs that, you know, for pop punk, it had Salt Lake City. For kind of modern rock, it had, you know, FEFU, Fuck Eat and Fuck You Up. It had kind of a hip hop thing with Massacre. And there were sort of a lot of different genres that got hit with that one. And that's sort of the vibe that's carried through, especially with the concept album, was that same kind of thing. You know, a lot of different genres. And just, you know, I mean, I get bored doing the same thing. But I think if you go see the Dwarves live, it's still like a pretty straightforward punk band without a lot of bells and whistles. But if you listen to the records, there's a lot of very sophisticated stuff going on there and a lot of great players and a lot of pretty interesting stuff. So I think the Dwarves are kind of a good example of that kind of schizophrenic thing, you know, where it's like the records are very detailed and interesting, but the live show is very punk rock, and the band in general is just kind of very punk rock, you know. So kind of get
that's
both.
awesome. It's cool that you can do that. That you can have a record that has, you know, one experience, and then when you go see the band live, not only do you still get those same songs, but you might get a different, more raw, stripped down experience that you can circle pit, stage dive, and have a good time to. And then, like I said, when you get home and listen to the record, it's a little more variance and on the album. The Blood, Guts, and Pussy and the Doors Are Young.
My cup says Berkeley alumni on it. I didn't go to Berkeley. I don't have a college degree.
Let's go.
I'm not trying to front here and pretend. I just
you should absolutely front and pretend, man. Dude, hey man, I've listened to you talk.
I'm representing Berkeley or something. You know?
That's it. Okay, yeah, maybe not that far. Yeah, I've listened to you talk and listened to your music enough to know you're rather intelligent. So it wouldn't be a stretch to think you have some kind of, you know, further education. I definitely don't, but like, you know.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah.
Oh man, absolutely. So, you know, I was just looking at this thing because I was trying to remember. I have a really bad short-term memory, and I was looking at the cover of these albums to remember exactly like where my journey with your band started. And how do you feel about all your artwork being like censored on all these platforms, man? It like really irritates me.
Yeah, it's interesting how it works, you know, because I put it up on the platforms the way it is, and nobody said anything.
Really?
We started getting taken off things. So like we got taken off YouTube Music, and all these fans were going, how come you're not on YouTube Music? And we still had our YouTube video channel up, so it was kind of confusing. So I had to go and put censored artwork back up through our distributor, you know, the online stuff. And then they had to go through the process of putting up the changed work. I mean, you know, people are childish, you know, and they can't. I mean, what's so fascinating about our culture is that, you know, a pair of tits drives everybody into fucking madness, whether it's on television or on a record or whatever. But, you know, then it's nothing but people shooting each other and torturing each other. And that's fine, you know. So it's very interesting to me. You know, to me, it was like, I like looking at naked women, and I know a lot of other people who do too. And I've been throwing that on my records for a long time. And it's really cost the band a lot. And it costs you a lot in terms of perceived talent. People just perceive that you have no talent because you put a naked girl on it. People just perceive that you're dumb because your song has fuck in the title. It must be dumb. You know, we've sort of been going through that through the whole life of the record and what the whole life of the band. And what I've realized is that, you know, it all comes down to marketing, you know.
Right.
Marilyn Manson had a, you know, whatever, $10 million marketing campaign behind them. So it was like, isn't this groundbreaking and transgressive and crazy, you know? But when you don't have the ridiculous marketing budget and you just put a cool a record up there that disturbs people, it's like, whoa, man, these guys must be dumb. This must be stupid. This music must suck. You know, this can't make any sense, you know. And of course, again, if it was the same woman but with a bikini on, it would be like, oh, okay, you know. So
yeah, be a Beach Boys
very,
album.
very funny where people draw their lines. You know, I don't.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me. And honestly, when I first came across your records, that's what grabbed my attention. I was like a 16-year-old kid, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Obviously, a 16-year-old, like, you know, straight male is going to be like, "What is this stuff?" You know.
Yeah.
But I kind of look at it as almost like a litmus test for, you know, your average person, right? Are you going to be able to look past this, read the song titles, listen to it, read the lyrics, and go, I kind of dig this, or even like, oh, I listened to it and I don't really like it, whatever. Right. Or are you going to be the one asshole that's like, oh, boobs, no, not appropriate, and then you know, kick it on down the line, and it's like, all right, but I thought that it's
right. And beyond that, can you see how the art actually enhances the music? I mean, I'm an old guy, so I come from that era of like cool record cover. And what influenced me was, you know, the Roxy Music covers, the Ohio Players covers, you know, Whipped Cream and Other Delights by Herb Alpert. I mean, these great album covers with beautiful women on them that kind of played around the edges of this stuff. And by the time I started making records, I was like, fuck it, just do them naked. Let's do this. And, you know, yeah, it's cost us a lot. And obviously I could have stopped at any time and done something different. No, but my take on it is, you know, the music industry never showed me any love, gave me any money, helped me out, it promoted me. So what I do is I just continue in a parallel universe next to it. You know, it's like I try and sell what I can and play where I can and do what I can, but I'm doing my stuff. And if you think it's stupid or you don't like it or it offends you, I don't care. I lost your audio there.
Is it back on?
Yeah.
Okay, I hit the wrong button a minute ago. I was trying to cover up a sniffle. There's something to be said for you know, I try to tell people that I'm around sometimes, you know, I sometimes I'll spend money on stuff and they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's a lot of money for whatever, fill in the blank. And I'm like, you know, yes, but money will come and money will go. The experience is what matters, and I think that means a lot in the world of art, and that encompasses music. You know, your record cover does matter, your album artwork does matter, and if it's a statement being made by you, that's important. If it's just a really cool ass piece of artwork that makes people say, "Ooh, I'm gravitated towards this because I like the design of it all," that matters. You know, it's you know, you can only have one Metallica black album and one Weezer blue album, where it's like, you know, one Beatles white album. Those have already been done, so it's not impactful anymore. Putting something crazy on the cover will grab attention. Whether it's good attention or bad attention, that's to be seen, I guess. But I think it's important.
You know, I look at it holistically. I think those album covers get you in the mood for that music. You know,
right?
You know, not
that's accurate.
When I make the Ralph Champagne records, I wouldn't make them with those kind of covers because they don't point you in that way. I think when you're making different kinds of genres and different kinds of music, you have to present it in different ways, you know, to try and encapsulate what it is. You know, there are certain bands that really, that cover, you know, it just sums up the band, with the Ramones or various things like, and it's very iconic. The Cramps early records, things. It was like you would see it and it just said something, you know, it was a statement. And very early on, I kind of saw it like, yeah, I can have a picture of us, but we don't really look right, and I wouldn't want to buy that. You know what I mean? It's like when I'm the cutest guy in a band, that's not a good sign, you know. And so it was awesome. Let's have some fun with this.
No, dude, fun is
have a picture of the group, you know.
Fun is sorely missing right now, and like everything, like not just music, but like just you wake up and life is kind of a kick in the dick right now. So it's like, you know, we need some fun. It's interesting too, because if you take the two most popular records, at least in my opinion, would be, I think it's Blood, Guts, and Pussy and the Dwarves Are Young Good Looking. The ones with the three ladies with the blood all over them, and then the one with the chick with the mask and the skateboard.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you have two albums that have like nudity on the cover, but if you're just looking at that, they look almost the same, right? Those two record covers say a lot of different shit about what's going to be on those albums.
Right.
And I think
exactly.
that's kind of what you were saying a minute ago, is that, you know,
Yeah,
it
the
represents
skateboard was to kind of satirize that era, the first
right.
era of like, hey, skateboard, like processed punk that's, you know, brought to you by the soft drink industry and shit.
Yeah, dude.
Like I was
Fucking
making
Pepsi.
comment on that, and then that record gets picked up by Epitaph, so it's even more like, oh, okay, we're right in the belly of the beast with this, that's satirizing this, you know. And then with Blood, Guts, and Pussy, it was very like, yeah, it's got the word pussy in it and there's nudity, so you're thinking one way, but when you really look at that shot, it's a very artistic shot. It's like minimal art, and the deeper you get into it, the more you see that like the little dwarf guy is kind of yearning toward them and very small and insignificant, and the women are big Valkyrie like featured in it, and they're not covered in blood like they've been hurt. They're covered in blood like they just got done wrecking a bunch of people.
Yes, that is a very valuable
blood. And so to me, it was a very bold, like, these women are in charge and big, and they're not scared of their sexuality, and they're going for it. But people didn't perceive that record that way at all for the most part. And it set off a whole firestorm of like weird chicks from Olympia crying about it and whatever it was. You know, it was like people would have these discussions. I think that dummy from Bikini Kill had her whole stupid take on it. And they all had this kind of stupid ideas about it. And none of them saw the obvious, you know, this is an art photo and the women are in charge. They just couldn't.
I feel like the women should have been
conceive of that. And I think they probably still can't conceive of it. And, you know, I can't make someone who's dumb smart.
Well, I mean, no, you absolutely cannot. I've tried that so many times in my life. It has never worked out in my, you know, in my favor. But, you know, look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I do feel like it's kind of obvious that was an empowering image. Like, I don't know. I don't want to, you know, go into like politics with all of it, but it does seem kind of obvious to me that is where you were headed with that image. Like, it doesn't seem like it's more like a righteous, like, we're here, we took over, we just murked a whole crowd of people we don't like, or whatever. We took over. We're the vampires, and we took over.
And for the record, I don't think we've ever had a cover on anything that was even vaguely misogynistic or hateful toward women, with the possible exception of the Toolin' for a Warm Teabag cover, which was a cover of, there's sort of a big woman who's been injured, but it's an illustration. And there's little dwarfs around her with knives and guns and stuff. And I thought it was funny. But,
love your band.
But even after that came out, I kind of learned my lesson and was like, you know, I don't really want to represent like women getting hurt. That's not my
right.
About. But I could see, you know, it's not like I censor it now or would take it out. But it's like, okay, you know, is this what I want to show, or is that what I want to show? And by the time it got to Blood Guts, it was like, that's what I want to show. And, you know, it's been 35 years of cool album covers with hot women on them, and they never were demeaned in any way, you know. So it's very, I don't know, you know, people are uptight about stuff, and I get it too. I mean, we've played with that. Like, it isn't like I was like, oh, gee, I couldn't imagine anybody was going to get offended. I knew that people were going to get offended by it, but it's curious to me how when you push people's buttons in certain ways, it shows you their prejudices and their
for sure, dude. True colors, man, they come shining through, don't they? Dude, for real. I have explained to people so many times, just like, you know, I talk for a living, so I talk to a lot of people about a lot of things, and I try to tell them, like, it's not like my job to not offend someone. Right now, if I'm going out and I'm being like just outright mean, that's different. But if I'm just doing my thing and it's not targeted at anybody, and I'm just being myself, and myself is a generally good person, and you're offended by something, it's not my job to not offend you. Now, if you want to start a dialogue, then I can be responsible and respectful and talk with you. But like, I don't have to just walk around on, you know, oh, I hope I don't.
And sometimes I am, and sometimes people try and start a dialogue. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm going to have to sit this dialogue out, dude, because my art speaks for itself. You're just a random person who's throwing some shit at me. And say, like, I've had people write to me and say, look, you know, I want to see the value of what it is you do, but you need to justify this. You know, you're showing a naked woman. Now I'm willing to listen. You know, why is this okay? You know, and my response is like, when I don't like something, I don't buy it, or I don't think about it, or I don't think about it. You clearly, this is bumming you out, right? So go with your gut, bud. Like, you don't have to talk to me about it, and you don't have to figure it out. You just have to not like it and move on. It's like, again, just the way you don't like it shows me that you're not really my kind of person, and you're not that bright. So, okay,
dude, 100%.
You know, but I'm not going to argue the point with a lot of people. Like, some people want a dialogue, like I owe them a dialogue. And it's like, I don't owe you shit, dude. I made a record. You can like it or not like it. There's all kinds of records out there that I don't like, and I don't go chasing the people down. I mean, this is such an interesting culture, because sometimes I'll put stuff up, and, you know, we're a pretty small band, and most of the people who respond or love the band and say that stuff. But then you'll get things like, you know, you're old. Why don't you quit? This is dumb. You're, you know, and your third record was cool, but this fucking 13th record sucks, and you're a joke, and you're this and that. And I just look at it like, fuck, dude. Like, I can't imagine specifically looking for things I hate and then telling you, and I hate this. I mean, I'd spend all day. I'd spend my whole life doing
yes. Well, that's what they do, though, is they spend all their time.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't sent MGK one fucking email, bro. I don't think he cares how much I dislike his music. And I don't care to tell him. Like, good for you, bro.
No, that poor guy got into a battle with Eminem. Never a good idea. And you know, if I got into a battle with Eminem, I would quickly retreat. I mean, the guy's pretty good at putting people in their place.
Well, that's the thing, is like, you know, look, man, everybody, and I've had people tell me that they thought that MGK was the superior rapper, and I just have to just go, okay, sure, you're just being an edgelord type. I get it, you're cool. But like, you know, I'm not sending that guy a message about how much I don't like his record. I don't care, and he doesn't care if I like it or not. Like, so, you know, if somebody was to tell me, oh man, I'm willing to listen,
and he looks cute in his outfits,
right?
You know, like he's like, and this is the thing. Like, I grew up with this band and that band. I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that Kurt Cobain was cuter than me, and that, you know, Chris Cornell was cuter than me, and that they, you know, like I would be fucking some girl in her apartment, and she'd be looking at the poster of them, you know. I mean, it's like, so it's like, when I see somebody like MGK, you know, it's like, well, okay, dude, you're another cute guy that
right. Hey, do you, bro? I don't care.
It's like, yeah, okay, good for you. You know,
like, what would you wear?
Soap opera or something like Drake was, you know, like, I don't know, you know, like do shit that cute guys do. You know what I mean?
Like, well, I mean, the real question is, like, would you wear that to impress Megan Fox? Because I probably would. Like,
yeah,
you know, I'll wear a spiky looking suit. Right. Like, it's so, yeah. But people are very, very uptight and sensitive, and they get very defensive about their beliefs. And the problem, that's actually the only issue that I really have with like social media stuff, is that I don't mind like sharing. I don't mind helping people. So when there's an issue, like, let me know. I don't need to know when you're mad all the time. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I just, and I'm typically a pretty empathetic guy, but like, man, if you're mad about something that I just don't typically care. I don't know. Maybe that comes off really rude, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, people in their comments and their dialogues are not a big part of what I do.
Well, they're not even at the shows. Probably they're probably just at their house typing shit on the computer, right? Like, they're not at the shows hanging out. Like, if you're willing to listen, good. Here's a link to my album. Listen to that, and then come talk to me about it. If you have an issue with the record, I'm all ears. But if you got an issue with the artwork, and clearly you're the person we were litmus testing for, like, yep, didn't pass. So tell me how BLAG got into punk rock music, man. I've probably heard this at some point over the years, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a family that loved music a lot, and so I was kind of raised with sort of the American songbook. You know, my folks were older, and so I heard, you know, Irving Berlin, and, you know, the musicals, and I was in, you know, the Music Man, and, you know, we'd see Guys and Dolls, and, you know, so I kind of grew up with that kind of music. And then my brother was very big on like modern jazz, very sophisticated, like Ornette Coleman, John Coltrane, Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah.
And I loved Frank Zappa and Monty Python's Flying Circus and kind of that kind of stuff. And I was very big on like humor and kind of very sophisticated music. And, but I tried to play like clarinet, saxophone and stuff. And I just wasn't very good at it. I couldn't really get a handle on it. And so eventually, I heard the Ramones and it really changed my life. I can do that. And, so I really credit the Ramones and the Cramps a lot with showing me that I could play music and I could be good at it. And I could, I actually could sing something and I actually could think up a song that worked like that. And even though I was not going to get to that Frank Zappa point,
he's pretty eclectic.
I could go in these different directions. And the interesting thing that happened was, as a result of kind of having this career of writing these very gut level, straightforward songs, a lot of more sophisticated, talented people came around to liking my shit and finding it an interesting antidote to what they're doing. So like, how else do you explain, like, I get Josh Freese on my records, or I get Eric Valentine to produce for me, or just a ton of interesting people. I'm working now on my solo stuff with Petra Hayden.
Nice.
And just like all these kind of people that are super talented, and I don't really consider myself like that, but the way they look at it is like, well, this guy writes cool songs and makes cool records and makes cool productions, so I want to be part of it. And so I think the paradox is that by embracing what I could do, the simple stuff, it kind of brought me to this more eclectic point where now I can do much more complex stuff through other people as a producer and a writer, so it kind of came around full circle in an interesting way. By the time it comes to making like that Ralph Champagne solo record of mine, the one I'm working on now, it's very sophisticated production and talented people playing and a lot of arrangements that I never could have done, but they came from people taking to my songs, which are always pretty simple and straightforward and deliver what they claim to deliver, lyrically and musically, So.
I don't think it's always easy to write something simple though. Like,
No.
Writing a song is difficult. It doesn't matter if it's complex or not. It's just difficult, man. I've written a fair amount of music in my life, not anywhere close to the amount of stuff you've written, but I've written a fair amount of music, and it was always tough. Like coming up with a catchy chorus or something that even means anything. Like just it can be catchy, it doesn't mean nothing, but or it can be mean. It's tough, man. So
no, it's harder than it looks. It's like everybody thinks they could host a talk show too.
Right.
Sometimes
stand-up comedy is easy.
Try just interviewing people like you're doing, and people say, well, I can do that. I know how to talk. And I've talked to people like, it's harder than it looks. Everything's harder than it looks to do well.
Yeah, that's the key, is doing it well. And I wouldn't even consider myself good at what I do. I'm trying to learn, grow. I'm trying to not over talk on people. I just threw my phone, so I'm like trying not to get distracted by that. Like it's tough, man. Like it's, you got to be respectful for people's time and patient, willing to change schedules. It's all, it depends on how much you care, I guess. But yeah, everybody can do what you can do when they're judging what you're doing. So it's interesting, dude. I was told I asked a few of my people on my channel, like, hey, what do y'all want to hear? Got any questions for BLAG? And like, I don't know, dude, a fair amount of people asked me to ask you about GG Allin. Now, I didn't know you knew GG Allin. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I did.
Whoa, what? You got any stories about that guy? I mean, just knowing him is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing my band got, I think he helped us to open up and write more nasty shit,
Okay.
The first thing we got was that Hated in the Nation cassette tape, which was on Roar cassettes, and it just had a succession of very funny songs, whether it was Sluts in the City, Fucking the Dog, or whatever was on there, these very funny songs, Drink, Fight, and Fuck, it was like, whoa,
that's
like
classic.
Say this stuff. And it had an appealing kind of 4-track quality to it. Like it was obvious nobody would give this guy a budget or let him in a studio or do whatever. And we kind of saw ourselves that way, and so we loved him. And then he got locked up And so when we were crossing the country, probably in, you know, doing one of our early tours, 89, 90, something like that, we stopped in Michigan where he was in a maximum security prison, and we visited him, and we had never met him, but I think he was just glad to have visitors. And, you know, his hair was all shaved in patches, and like, what's up with that? And he's like, you know, this is so the black dudes think I have AIDS. You know, I'm like, okay, dude, good luck with all that. I mean, it was very like, this is some heavy shit. I'm sitting here in this maximum security thing. Then we were supposed to do a gig with him in San Francisco, and he came out with his band, and I told him they could crash at my house. And that night he had gotten very sick with like sepsis, like blood poisoning in Santa Barbara. And so he had to go to the hospital. And so the next day they wouldn't discharge him from the hospital, and the band, you know, they had to cancel the show. Now, back then I was a little more like, you know, gung-ho, the Dwarves. And I was like, fuck that. You don't cancel a Dwarves show, you know? So I was upset, and I threw the band out of the house because I think they kind of thought they were going to hang out for a week with me while GG got better or whatever. I'm like, fuck that. Cancel the show. Get the fuck out of here. You know, and it was kind of weird. And then a couple days later, when they kind of managed to reschedule a show and GG got out of the hospital, I went to the show. So none of them seemed to like me, you know, but GG still liked me. And, you know, he just like, I saw him like bring a mic stand down on some chick, probably broke her collarbone. Two big guys walked up, started swinging on him. Then the smell of shit comes up, and he's like shit all over himself, and everybody runs away. I mean, it was insane. I mean, it was the kind of thing that is just once in a lifetime shit, and the kind of thing that no artist would even pretend to do now, you know. And again, well, this is the funny thing, because if somebody has those kind of stories and then they die on junk, it's just easy to eliminate them as untalented and not knowing anything. But, you know, I talked to GG, and he liked music, and he was an interesting guy, and he had talent. You know, he just went off in a direction that wasn't a direction I was going to go. I'm very kind of clean. I don't like to be covered in shit. And
I'm not trying to do all that, but I'll watch from afar and be like, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Like, well, whenever you're misunderstood, it's really easy for people to just throw you in the trash. That's what they do. It's like when, like, take all of us as an example. I mean, do you think my mom understood when I started getting like neck tattoos at age 19? Like, she just didn't. And I told her, I was like, I don't want to ever get a corporate job. She's like, yeah, well, you're never gonna now. I'm like, yeah, thank God. You know, fast forward, I'm 42. I got a small business, a growing channel, and I have a little part-time supplemental job that I really enjoy.
And like, your mom still calls me, which is crazy.
Dude. Hey, I can appreciate a great mom joke, dude. I love it. That's awesome, man. My mom's a silly lady, dude. She lives right across the street, man. She's rad. My mom's rad, but she's a crazy woman, man. She's like dude, I'm 42, and if I go to her house right now and I have a backpack and I was like, hey, mom, I got some movies and music. Can you hold on to this for like a couple of days? I got to go take care of some business. She'd be like, is any of it rated R? And is there any naked ladies on the cover? And I'd be like, damn, yeah. And she'd be like, get that out of my house. Straight up. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah. She's like, not taking any shit. Yeah.
That is the Lord's house, man. You do not mess with my mom.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one time I got this big agnostic front tattoo on my forearm, right? It's my very first tattoo, like below my elbow. And my mom calls me, and she's only like 5 foot tall. She's a real tiny lady, right? She calls me, she's like, hey, can you come help me wash my work truck? And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's like the middle of summer, and it's my mom. So I was like, yeah, I'll come help you. And so I'm getting dressed, and I think my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, you probably shouldn't wear a tank top. Your mom's going to be furious. And I was like, oh, shit. And so I put on like a long sleeve button down, like a dress shirt or something. And I'm outside washing this big ass like Frito-Lay truck, right? And she's like, are you not hot? And I'm like, no, I'm fine, you know? And then like 30 minutes go by. I forget what I'm doing. I take my shirt off.
Right.
Dude, she comes back outside to give me something to drink. I get nailed with a lemonade. She starts smacking the shit out of me. What is that on your arm? Yeah, dude, my mom, you know, tough lady, but you know, it's probably her. She tried to help, right? But it's probably her fault that I work so hard at being so stubborn, because she's the one that got me my work ethic. Man, moms are rad, dude. For the most part.
I got a great mom. She's still going strong at 91. So,
shit, yeah, 91. That's awesome. Dude, good for her, man. Shout out to your mom. So okay, man, I didn't realize that y'all had another. I'm like itching to hear that other record, man, at 10 songs. So what kind of music is on that? Do you have, is it dialed in, or is it kind of all over the place?
Well, what it is there's a couple remixes from the concept record, which
Okay.
are, you know, one of them is quite different, one of them's not much different, and then there's actually one track that's on the concept album. The other 7 are, there's a cool 60s cover on there, which people find interesting, called Invisible People. You know, when the Dwarves started, we did 60s garage covers, and so again, this is nice, like, you know, all the way around. And there's, you know, pop punk jam on there called One Musketeer. It's very catchy and kind of got that Green Day, Offspring feel.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple hardcore songs where me and Nick Oliveri switch off singing, which are neat. And then there's a very bluesy song called I Had a Dream.
Nice.
Which doesn't sound like anything the Dwarves ever did. So that's pretty interesting. There's a Nick original song called Blast Off. You know, and so it's just a very eclectic, interesting record.
I like it, man. A couple remixes and like 7 other tracks. It's like a mega EP. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a little cheaper than a regular record, so I think people should go out and get it. But it's cool. It's got a great cover, the usual thing, you know.
Anytime somebody can save a couple bucks, that's always a good selling point, man. I have a small record store down here in Houston, and my only goal is to get things as low as I can get them in, because nobody's got money right now, man. It's 2024, bro. We're all broke.
The last time I went to Houston, I should mention this since this is a Houston show, there was some guy, and I wish I knew his name because I could say what a fucking asshole he was. But
I would let you too.
He booked us to play out at a skateboard place. Fuck, I wish I could remember the name. It was supposed to be a tribute to that old club Fitzgerald's.
Yeah.
We played there with the Necromantics, and the guy just fucked us over. And
wait, was that pretty recently?
Yeah, it was just a couple months ago, and it really pissed me off because I went out there. We've played Houston dozens of times. I love it there, you know, and I love Texas, and you know, it was like, and we used to play Fitzgerald's, and they said, "Here, you want to come out and do this thing?" The guy completely overpromised on money, and then just didn't deliver it, and was just complete bullshit. And the reason I didn't like it was because he was kind of using the name of this skateboard collective. I wish I could remember what's a skateboard collective out there where
I'm gonna look it up.
Where they put on shows, and it was like he was using these guys' name to do his half-ass supposedly like tribute to Fitzgerald's, and all it was some bullshit. And he pocketed the money and was just a fucking douchebag.
I take that a little personal because I'm born and raised here, and Fitzgerald's is where I cut my teeth, man. I didn't. Yeah. So I saw that was like going on. I saw like a flyer, and I never heard anything else about it. I didn't even know that it happened. Did it actually?
He was terrible at promoting the show, and I think he lost his ass on it. And I was like, yeah, well, fuck, of course you lost your ass on it. You didn't promote it correctly, and nobody knew that it was happening.
Right. I can't even. I'm looking it up on I just Googled it, and I can't even. Let's see. Maybe I should put the word Houston in here. But yeah, I did. Oh wait, here we go. Remembering Fitzgerald's. No, that's not a.
What was the name of the venue? Because it was the venue was like a place where it was like cool. It was like skateboard guys, and they had stuff for sale there and whatever. And I think he was just using them for the name of the place and to give himself cover or whatever. But it was really bullshit. Right.
Yeah,
I don't want to dwell on it too much, but.
No, but he should be called out if he did something like that. And I mean, I'm basing it on your side of the story, and obviously there's 2 sides to every story, but like that's crazy. I definitely saw one flyer and then never heard nothing else about it, so I didn't even know that it actually had gone down. Because I would have been out there if I was aware of it more. That's hey man, I don't know the dude, but that's shitty. So you know that's shitty. Houston's an awesome place, but every big city has a big pile of turds to some degree. I mean. You know, I can only imagine there's a bunch of people out here I wouldn't want to be hanging out with and shit. So,
yeah, completely.
So, in your more like formative years, like when you were younger,
I'm sorry, the place was Embassy Outpost.
Let's see.
And you know, I don't blame the people at Embassy Outpost. It seemed like they had a nice like skateboard kind of collective going, but they let this asshole come in and do a show. They should certainly never allow that again because he was using their name and doing his shit, whatever it was. It was infuriating. Anyway, let's move on from
that. No worries. I am a little more interested in that now, though. I might have to do some little investigative herdism, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so when you were like in your more formative years, you were starting to write your music, and you were, let's say you were deciding you were going to start playing music. Did you play stuff before you were in the Dwarves? Because you've been around with the Dwarves for a long time, so I don't actually know the answer to that.
Before the Dwarves, when we were still in high school, there was a group called Suburban Nightmare.
Okay,
that I had. But yeah, it's been the Dwarves for probably since 85, 86, something
it's been a long time. I knew it was the 80s. I wasn't sure when in the 80s, but I knew it had been a long time. So what were some of the albums or musicians? It doesn't have to be punk rock stuff, just stuff that like you gravitated towards when you were younger that really inspired you. Was there any album that when you heard it, you were like, shit, yeah, I want to make music?
Yeah, Frank Zappa, We're Only in It for the Money, was a huge record for me.
Okay.
And, those 70s records of his, Roxy and Elsewhere, Shake Your Booty. I was very influenced by that. You know, when I just started high school, like the first day of high school, I was hitchhiking to school and a guy picked me up. He's like, hey, nobody hitchhikes around here. I just moved to a new place and I was like, okay. Shit. And he started playing me stuff. He played me the first Velvet Underground record. And over the course of the year, you know, he played me a lot of these early 60s compilations, things like Nuggets and Pebbles. And, you know, so I was very influenced by like the 60s garage rock and very influenced by rockabilly. You know, he played me Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent and these kinds of things. And so to me, that's kind of the basis of what I do is like 60s garage rock and just rockabilly, rock and roll music. And I discovered that pretty much at the same time I discovered hardcore punk. So to me, it was all part of the same thing. You know, we all went to see the Decline of Western Civilization movie. So like, I think for a lot of people from that era, like when Decline came out, they were like all in for punk rock, and everything from the 60s and 50s was bullshit, you know?
Right.
And then there were guys who were like, I'm just rockabilly. I look like Potsy and here's my hairdo. And I don't like this punk stuff. And the 60s people were like, you got to dress in this outfit, you know? And I was just more like omnivorous, and I just sort of took it all in, you know? So to me, just very influenced by all rock and roll and the previous periods, you know? So now, you know, especially after years on the road, I mean, it's like, I listen to pop songs and jazz songs and country and shit from the 20s and 30s a lot. It's just easy on my head, and it's enjoyable to listen to. And so for me, it's like rock and roll and everything that influenced rock and roll, you know, the mountain music, blues music, R&B music, pop music that was out there. And, you know, I'm just very influenced by American music generally. And I'm more like, a lot of people like concentrate on one genre. They love that. And then they love everything in it. I'm sort of just the opposite. I like every genre, but I like what's good in it and very above the line. So, you know, people always think I hate everything because they'll be like, what do you think of this punk band? And what do you think of that punk band? And what do you think of the other punk band? I'm like, mediocre derivative. You know, it's like, what can I say? You know, it's like,
well, that is often the actual truth too, though.
But yeah, the punk bands I saw live were the Misfits, the Black Flag, the Dead Kennedys, Violent Femmes. We got like the greatest band, Gang of Four. You know, just these amazing groups. So, you know, I don't give a fuck about your band if it's not interesting to me. You know, it has to be something different. If you're basically doing kind of trying to do what I did and doing a half-ass job of it, it's like, okay, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I hope you do good, but I don't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, being different is very important. I just did a whole video where, I mean, it took me weeks to do this thing because I had to like research it and stuff and like edit it all myself. And it was, I discovered this new-ish like sub genre of oi called Cold Oi. It's based out of France. Comes out of France mostly, and it's just this really good amalgamation of like early 80s oi music and like new wave stuff. And I never in my life thought I'd want to have anything to do with new wave-ish music until I heard this, and I was like, holy shit, now I'm gonna have new wave in my catalog.
Is great, man. Cars.
Hey, to each their own, man. not my cup of tea, bro. But like that really opened my ears, man. Honestly, I probably should go back and listen to some of the stuff that I used to not like, because this music probably opened a bunch of doors that I don't even know it opened. But being interesting and trying to create something different is important. But I can also hear 60s garage rock and then early hardcore in your music a lot, so that doesn't surprise me. I like CCR a lot. You know, as I get older, I like a lot of different kinds of music, and I just started listening to jazz like maybe 2-3 years ago. I'm very much a novice in that department, man, but like, dude, some of that stuff is just absolutely stunning. Like, I don't even know how they accomplish it. Like,
while my brother had very sophisticated jazz records, and then he had some older ones that he thought were kind of square, but those were the ones that I liked because it was back to songwriting. So it was like a Louis Armstrong record or a Billie Holiday record or an Ella Fitzgerald record. And I was like, I like this because it's a song. I don't really want to hear John Coltrane 25-minute.
See, that's what I don't.
Even though he's brilliant, you know, it's like I'm usually not in the mood for that. But I would like to hear the original of the song he's covering. You know, it's like, hey, that, you know, it's a song. You know,
I feel almost exactly like that. All the crazy noodling, I'm not really like. I appreciate it. I know that it's brilliant. I don't necessarily understand it even. But I typically would want to hear something that's like 4, 5, 6 minutes versus 20. And like, I don't necessarily need it to go off into space for a while because, well, I'm sober these days. So I don't want to hear that shit because I need to have something to help me out when I'm listening to that kind of music.
I mean, but the jazz guys were kind of rebelling against, hey, you know, we do 3 sets a night of the on the regular way. Now, fuck this. It's 2 a.m. We're smoking reefer. We're in a room.
That's true.
This, and so they went wild, and it's like, all right, you know,
and I can appreciate that. I wasn't there, so you know, it may not mean as much to me. Dude, you guys have been doing music for a long time, and in my personal opinion, you've accomplished a lot. Is there anything that you still are setting out to do with the Dwarves? You have any goals that you'd still like to accomplish? Any place you want to play, any band you want to play with? Is there any kind of goals you still have with the band? I mean, obviously put out great music.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I love to play festivals and have people who never heard us be exposed to us and have larger bands carry us on their back. You know, I love that. And, you know, I love to play big festivals all over. I'd love to get to do one in, you know, Australia and Japan and different places that we play, but never got to do like a huge show. Love to do one of those Brazilian Sao Paulo things, you know.
Yeah.
So that's sort of for live. I think artistically, you know, it's always fun writing a song, being with my friends, making a record. I mean, I hope that never ends. But I think the big thing is a movie. I think there's got to be an interesting movie about the Dwarves at some point, and it can't be one of those like talking head documentaries full of old people going, I saw them when there were 5 people in the crowd. Like we need to make a good movie at some point, and I think we will. You know, it'll be creative and kind of different than other people.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's awesome. That was actually like interesting answer. I didn't know what you were going to say. I kind of just pulled that one out of my ass a little bit. But like, is there any place that you guys haven't played yet that you still want to go? Like just in general? The world's a big place, man. It's
I mean, you know, I'm not that adventurous anymore about traveling. You know, I'm sure there was a time when I was like, I want to play in front of the Egyptian pyramids and in front of the Taj Mahal, you know.
Right.
I don't really care. You know, I want to go where people are going to love us and be interested in us.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the right answer, man. I just last weekend flew to Pittsburgh. That was my second time leaving Texas my whole life. So like, I'm still kind of like, I want to go do stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But like, if I had been in a band touring for, you know, 30 years, I would probably want to chill a little bit more.
I've played over 1,000 shows, man.
That's
probably
amazing.
Been to Europe 15 times, been to Australia 6 times, you know, been to South America, Asia. It's like just getting on planes is work for me, you know, like I don't want to do it.
No, I've only done it twice and it's ass both times, bro. I'm not really a fan, dude. I don't flying like seeing the clouds from the daylight flight was pretty cool. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a nerd and I thought that was pretty. But the like everything else about it, the waiting, the lines, the yo, what's up with people that bring a fucking 2-year-old on a plane? Like I've been on exactly 2 planes. Well, I guess I've been on 4. I went, you know, round trip 2 times. So like, why don't they have a separate plane that is a little bit more expensive? It's like, hey, if you got a kid under the age of 5, you got to be on this plane. Dude, it's crazy.
The way they beat on your seat when you're trying to sleep.
Well, this one kid was I felt almost kind of bad for her, but I was simultaneously incredibly upset because she would not stop screaming. Like it wasn't even. And I was like, yo,
parents don't really know how to shut their kids up.
Dude,
it's like,
the guy's just standing there looking at everybody, and everybody's kind of like, did you think about feeding her?
You're not in your living room now. You're in a public place.
Right.
Get up, please.
And I've got 3 kids. I'm not.
Think that if you ever tell your kid to do anything at home that you're permanently damaging them, that's fine. Fuck up your own home. But when you're sitting there with me and I'm trying to sleep because I got a gig to go to, you don't need your kid screaming and being free, you know.
Dude, it's wild, man. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't. There's places like I got a 4-year-old who is almost 4 in a few weeks. So I got a 4-year-old with me right now, right? There are places that during the week I just don't go. I'm not going to take him and subject other people to my crazy little kid. He's a well-behaved child, but he's also 4, so he's going to be a certain amount of like, Dad, break shit. Like,
yeah.
Do you have kids?
I don't have any. I like kids. I mean, I'm not
kids
like
are fun, man.
Hater. I like kids, and I have
I'm not a kid hater. I'm a kid hater on a plane.
You know, when I go out to a nice restaurant, I don't need your kid there, and your kid doesn't appreciate the food here. Just get a babysitter. And don't be a fucking asshole, please. And the plane is another one. It's like, all right, maybe you need to be a little more of a disciplinarian on this fucking plane, because this kid is annoying 20 people right now, and you've just fucking like no. You know,
dude, people are wild with the amount of like entitlement and the things that they believe that they should be allowed to do. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and just bitch and moan. It is almost kind of comical to a degree after, in hindsight, but like, control your children, please. Oh my goodness, dude. Shit, man.
Parental advice from the guy from the Dwarves, right? Yeah.
Let's go.
That's very valuable.
Dude, that should be the title of the video, dude. BLAG gives parental advice. People that know you don't have kids be like, what are they talking about in this fucking video?
That's right.
That's amazing, dude. Shit, man. Time flies by when you're having a good conversation, man. I really appreciate your time a lot, man. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get out of here, dude? Anything else that we didn't touch on?
Man, I love Texas. I've spent a lot of time in Austin and Dallas, played Houston a lot, San Antonio, and I just love it out there, and the people of Texas are great. I love the people of Oklahoma too. I got to give a shout out to Lloyd Nickel from Oklahoma. He's out there, and it's just a great part of the country. I love going out there.
Hell yeah, dude. We love the Dwarves down here, man. Is there any musician, friend, band, artist, anything you want to shout out before we get out of here? Anybody you want people to pay attention to? Something I could put in the description?
Fuck everybody. Look, here's what you need
100%.
to do. I just started a podcast called Songs and Lyrics. So I want you to go up on YouTube.
Okay.
Songs and Lyrics with BLAG Dahlia, and you can hear me. The way we do our podcast is we just start with a song.
Okay.
Song, and we talk about it, and it leads to talking about other songs, and we play those songs, and it's just all about songs and lyrics. I just have conversations with different people.
Man, you ever want to guess nobody knows, dude? Hit me up, bro. That sounds like a fucking blast, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome, man. Well, shoot, dude. I would love to do this again one day if you have the time and desire. I don't know if that's something you're interested in, but
absolutely, man. Thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for your time, dude. Thanks for everything you do, man. I appreciate it. If you come back down to Houston, I will be there. Otherwise, dude, have a great day, man. Travel safe. Have a fun time.
You got it.
Shit. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and fuck with the Dwarves, or don't. It's up to you, I guess, man. Later, everybody. Later, BLAG.
Cheers.